All right, so we have talked about how to factor out the greatest common factor. So the next thing we're going to talk about is now factoring trinomials when the leading coefficient is 1. So first thing you're always going to do when you get a polynomial, like I said, we're going to use trinomial. So when you get a trinomial, is always check and see if you have a greatest common factor. If you do, factor that out. That will make everything easier. And then if you don't, or after you factor that out, the next thing you can do is factor the trinomial. So parts of the most common trinomials are labeled as, and this is the part you need to write down, ax squared plus bx plus c. So this is what our trinomials are going to look like. So some examples of that are these three right here. So when it says a, b, and c, that's just saying those are whole numbers. So if you have something x to the second power plus some number x plus some number. So for example, 2x squared plus 3x minus 4. So that's a trinomial. And it's always going to be set up with x squared, x, and then a constant. So you've got x squared minus 2x plus 7, and you've got 6x squared plus x minus 1. So if you look in this example, a is 2, your b is 3, c is negative 4. In this one, in the purple, a is, there's nothing there, so it's a 1. B is negative 2. C is 7. Okay, and that's important to know because you're going to have to know which one's your A, B, and C in order to figure out these problems and be able to factor them. So if we look at the last one, what is our A? Our A is 6. What's our B? Our B is 1. And what's our C? Our C is negative 1. All right, so that's the first thing we're going over. You need to make sure when you have a trinomial, you can look at it and tell what is the A, what is the B, and what is the C. So if we went back up here to our title, it says factoring trinomials when the leading coefficient is 1. So when A is 1. So out of these three, the purple one is the only one where A is 1. So the first thing we're going to learn how to do is factor trinomials when A equals 1. So all of our problems are going to look like this. And those are going to be pretty simple. And then here in a few days, we will work on, okay, well, how do you do it if A is bigger than 1? And that's going to have some extra steps to it. So first thing, we are going to factor a trinomial into two binomials. So that's what we're going to do. So that's what we're going to do. We had just got done working on multiplying. So factoring is kind of like dividing. We just did greatest common factor where we divided out the factor. So now we're going to take a trinomial and break it apart into two binomials. It is the complete opposite from what we have been doing the last, well, not a few days for you all, but the last week or so before spring break. We have been multiplying them together, and then, like I said, now we're going to break them apart. So here's your first problem to look at. Write this down. Make sure you're writing the notes down and not just watching the video. Based on some of the work being turned in, I'm feeling some people aren't taking the notes and making sure to write everything down like they're supposed to and doing the examples. So make sure you are doing that. Now, we have x squared plus 11x plus 18. So we are going to use what is called the x method. The x method. So I come over here. You can write down these three. These are the three steps. These are the three things you're going to do, and then you'll be able to take this trinomial and turn it into two binomials. So you're going to use the x method. First thing you do, number one, and like I said, you either like take a picture of this or write this down so you have these steps for all of these problems. So the first thing, you draw an x. A times C goes on the top and B goes on the bottom. So remember, if you can't look at this and tell what's A, B, and C, then you're not going to be able to solve it. So that's why I just got done talking about how you need to make sure you can look at that and identify what is your A, what's your B, and what's your C. So Let's take a look. For this problem, our A is 1, B is 11, and C is 18. And remember we said for all of the problems on this today, A is going to be 1. So the first thing you do is draw an X. So step 1, draw an X. A times C goes on the top. So 1 times 18 is 18. 18 goes on the top. B goes on the bottom. B is 11. So that's the very first thing you do. Draw an X. 1 times 18 is 18. B is 11. 11 goes on the bottom. The next thing you do is figure out the side numbers on the X. The side numbers must multiply to get the top number and add to get the bottom number. So it's kind of like a little puzzle now. We have to look at it and figure out, okay, what times what will give me 18, but if I add them, give me 11. So sometimes you can come up with that pretty quick. Other times what you would do is write the factors of the top number. So you can be like, okay, 1 times 18 gives me 18, but 1 plus 18 is not 11. Nope. So what else is there? Well, 2 times 9 is 18. 2 plus 9, 11. Yep. So then that's our two numbers, 2 and 9. All right. So other things you could look at and be, okay, well, 6 times 3 is 18. Yep. But is 6 plus 3, 11? Nope. So that doesn't work. So you're just going to try the different things until you come up with, okay, they multiply to give me the top number. They add to give me the bottom number. So then next thing you're going to do is write the binomials with X in the front. So this is what it's going to look like every time. Parentheses, and you put X in the front. So you write a binomial. So you put your two parentheses, put the X in the front of it, and then use the side numbers for the back of each binomial. So then the next thing you do is look at this. I had a positive 2 and a positive 9. So it's going to be X plus 2, X plus 9. And now I've taken a trinomial and factored it into a binomial, into two binomials. So now if I want to multiply these together using the FOIL method or the box method and check it, this times this will go back to this. 9 times 2 is 18. 2 plus 9 is 11. So it worked. All right, so this would be your answer. So basically, before spring break, we were taking these, multiplying them together to get this. Now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to take a trinomial and factor it to get your two binomials. So we're just doing what we did before spring break, but now doing it backwards. Well, not before spring break. Well, yeah, before spring break when we did multiplying. All right, so let's take a look at another one. All right, so if we take a look here, first thing you're going to do is look at them. Remember, it's a 1. The top is A times C, so 1 times 7. So you multiply those. 1 times 7 is 7. B goes on the bottom, it's 8. And then you got to figure out what times what is 7, but adds to give you 8. All right? 1 times 7 is 7, and 1 plus 7 is 8. So that worked. So then you write your binomials. We're using B, so we put B in the front. And then we have a positive 1 and a positive 7. So plus 1 and plus 7. All right? So pretty simple. Now, don't look at this and say, oh, I got it, and then turn the video off because it's going to be a little different. What happens if we have some negatives in here? So let's look at those, some examples of what that will look like. All right. So this one has a negative 12. So the first thing we do is 1 times negative 12. Our top number is negative 12. Our bottom number is positive 4. So be very careful. Make sure when you're multiplying, you don't forget about any negatives. Make sure you write them over here. So now we got a little bit trickier. We have to figure out what times what will give me negative 12, but when I combine them, it gives me positive 4. So once again, you could be like, okay, well, 1 times 12 is 12, but can I add or subtract a 1 and a 12 to get 4? No. All right. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 plus 3 is 7. That doesn't work. 4 minus 3 is 1. That doesn't work. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 plus 6 is 8. But if I go, okay, well, what if I have a 6 and a negative 2? 6 times negative 2 is negative 12, and 6 minus 2 is 4. So that works. So whenever you have a minus, you're going to have to think a little bit more out of the box and figure out, okay, what if one of them is a minus, a negative? How could I combine them that way? And then this part, easiest part, write your binomials. This time we used n. You have a positive 6, and you have a negative 2. And also, in case you were wondering, does not matter if you put the negative 2 here or 6 here. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this is your answer or if instead your answer was the other way around and you put minus 2 here and plus 6 here. It's still correct. So it doesn't matter which way those end up going in there, as long as you have the right numbers. All right. What if the b is the negative 1 instead this time? So if we look, 1 times 9 gives me 9 on top. B is negative 10. So I need two numbers that multiply to give me positive 9, but when I combine them, give me negative 10. So you could do like, okay, 3 times 3 is 9, but there's no way a 3 and a 3 can turn into 10. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 plus 9 is 10, but I need negative 10, so I need to make these both negative. Negative 1 times negative 9 is positive 9, and a negative 1 minus 9 is negative 10. So this is where, if you're not good with adding and subtracting with positive and negative numbers, you might want to make sure you're using the calculator on this. Write your binomials. We're using y, and we have minus 1 and a minus 9. And that's all there is to it. So if you're stuck, rewatch part of the video, make sure you understand what's going on. Let's see, is this I got that one. All right. So we'll skip this one, and we'll go ahead and do this one since it has two negatives in it. So 1 times negative 56 is negative 56, and then x is a negative 1 in front of it, so our b is negative 1. So this one's a little bit trickier. You got some bigger numbers. What times what is negative 56, but if I combine them, I get negative 1. So you got 1 times 56. Nope, can't add or subtract those to get negative 1. You've got 2 times 28. Nope, that can't give me negative 1 if I add or subtract those. You've got, sit there and think of what else with 56. Will 3 go into 56? Nope. This is where you just use your calculator and divide it by different things. You can say, okay, 4 goes into 56. So 4 times 14 is 56, but that can't give me negative 1. So 5, no. 6, no. Will 7 go into 56? Yep. So 7 times 8 is 56. And then you would look and say, all right, can I add or subtract? Yeah, 8 minus 7 is 1. But I've got to figure out if I go 8 and minus 7, positive and negative is negative. 8 times 7 is 56. That works. But 8 minus 7 is positive 1. So then you got to be like, okay, let's switch it, make that the negative, and make this one the positive. And then negative 8 plus 7 is negative 1. So trial and error, figure out what you should have, and then you have x minus 8, x minus 1, or not minus, but plus 7. X minus 8, x plus 7. All right, and then one last example, just because when you get one like this, you might look at this and say, okay, get ready to solve it, but oh, the front number is not a 1, it's a 6. So we're going to learn how to do this one in a few days, but the first thing you do, remember the very first line of the note said, always check for a greatest common factor. So anytime you have a number in the front, always check and see, can I factor anything out of this? And you could see, yeah, each one of them, you could divide 6 out. So the greatest common factor is 6. So I can divide 6 out, factor 6 out of the trinomial, like we learned how to a couple days ago. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So I get x squared plus 66 divided by 6 is 11x. And then 60 divided by 6 is 10. So then when you get your final answer, you'll have still 6 on the outside, and then you'll have your binomials there. So then you go ahead and you just do what we've been doing, but do it for that one and see what you come up with. So go ahead and pause the video, do this last problem, fill this, draw your x, fill it out, and see what you get. So if you paused it, if you did that, then you should end up getting what? What'd you get? You should end up with x plus 1 and x plus 10. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. All right, so pretty simple. Gets a little bit more complicated in a few days when we move on to what to do if a is greater than 1. But for now, these should be pretty easy. If you have any questions, come to the Google Meets, email me, let me know. And then other than that, talk to you all later.